Welcome to day 7 of our daily tea practice together. We're gonna be here a while. I hope you guys are excited. I'm excited. We're all ready. I'm all hyped up. Hope you guys are having a good day wherever you are. Hello from Las Vegas. So today we're going to be doing some study of some Darjeeling tea, or some Darjeeling tea, as we seem to have learned from our French-speaking friends. You can correct us if you'd like. I'm curious now to see how you might say Darjeeling in your home language, because in English we call it Darjeeling. Hey, hand over some Darjeeling to me. So when I first heard our French friends pronounce it, they thought I was making fun of their accents, but it sounds really fancy, and it's quite a fancy tea, so I think it suits it really well. But yeah, we're going to be doing some Darjeeling study. It's been a while since I've spun up some, so I'm excited. I hope you guys are too. So let's say our hellos to Lauren, CH, me.mar. How's it going, Marjolaine? Are you in Japan still? I wonder if you're still there. Apathea D. Kurt, how's it going? 702 Nelly, and T-Buzz T. And then TJ9, I didn't even see you pop in. Seems like Instagram doesn't even want to tell me that you're here, so I did test the French. Now I'm nervous. Now I'm nervous now that Jeremy is here. I don't want to say it anymore. Darjeeling. Darjeeling. Just Darjeeling. We'll just call it Darjeeling. Optimist cat last, okay? Optimistic at last. There we go. Optimistic at last. I got it. I thought it was cat last. I'm like, no. And bunnies for tea. Welcome to our Darjeeling practice today. Yeah. Hope you are good today. Hope you guys have had some tea in you today. So far, we've had some charcoal dongding while watching Floating Leaves' amazing live session on Tuesdays. Apparently, they're about to spin it up and extend it to Thursdays too. So we're super excited. If there's any other live stream that we're like, honestly, dude, we gotta catch this stuff, it's the Floating Leaves one. So I hope that you guys also follow along with them. I learn a lot from them. Some of our most favorite teas are from them. And yes, we do go to Taiwan more or less every year, but we still buy Floating Leaves teas. So for those of you all who are like, why would you buy tea from a Taiwanese vendor when you go to Taiwan? It shows you how good their tea is. Trust your vendors. They put a lot into the curation. And I've trusted my vendors today to put a lot into their curation because Darjeeling is a place I've been to. I've been there twice during my time in the wholesale industry. But there's something to be said about people who've been there, who've developed relationships with those producers, estates, etc. And Jeremy from TJ9 and our friend Delphine inspired us to do this live because they are from Camellia sinensis in Canada, which, one of their founders, I think, would you call him a founder? Kevin has been working with Darjeeling for a long time. I don't have Darjeeling from them today. I do have some Meghalaya tea. Maybe we'll spin that up later on the Discord. Anyway, let's get this started after I say hello to some more friends. Benjamin, T. Jacid, Pali G, and Show Me Tea. Yeah, let's get going. Maybe you guys have some Darjeeling too. We've had some charcoal dongding together with Shoan and Noah. And then we had some Shincha matcha, which is kind of a, weird one. It's matcha made with leaves from the Shincha harvest, which is kind of unusual. Marjolaine, you probably think it's kind of weird. Shincha matcha is leaves from using matcha made with leaves from the first harvest, and typically matcha is rested before it's made into matcha. The leaves need to kind of like chill out for a little bit. They're not typically the first harvested in Japan, but I guess they made this interesting Shincha matcha for people who are really, into the first flush kind of like Shincha madness. They made that matcha for, and so I'm hyped up. I'm not sure if you guys can tell. I'm more hyped up than usual. And I was like, Steven, why did you give me the Shincha matcha of all the matcha we have when we're about to do Darjeeling? Like, Darjeeling's pretty prickly, but we'll see. We've got 4 different Darjeelings today, which I hope I remember which bags I poured them out of. I think I do. We've got 2 first flush teas here, which we will drink first. And this one is the Clonal Seren Wonder from Teavolution in the Philippines. I got this from my friend Cheryl when I was there. And this is another first flush from her, Agidapahar from last year. So these are from my friend in the Philippines, but I think these estates also distribute to companies in the US. Really, really beautiful. And then, for those of you who saw our Instagram story before we started, we're doing second flush Darjeelings. This one is an everyday Darjeeling from Big Heart Tea. And I've actually been to the estate that produces this tea here. It's called Yankee Tea Estates. And then this one is, I forgot which one it was. Oh yeah, this is Lupicia's second flush. I'm not sure if they give me what estate it's from. Lupicia is one of those big kind of like blended tea companies that so happens to do good Darjeeling tea. I started a lot of my tea hype with Lupicia. They're known for like their white peach sencha and peach oolong, and like they have pretty good flavored teas, but you know, I guess the Darjeeling looks pretty good, so we'll test it out today. And yes, it is a second flush. You can tell that the second flush is quite a bit darker than the first flush. So that's our first tell when you are looking at Darjeeling. Tendencies are the first flush is going to be a little bit lighter colored than the second flush. And why is that? I'm not a Darjeeling expert, but this is what I know. From what I understand, and I felt it when I was there, the first flush is picked towards the beginning of spring, and it's a little bit colder, so when they're trying to oxidize the leaves, like let them brown and stuff, it's kind of cold. Now think about it. Does a banana or apple or like whatever else you want to oxidize, does fruit go browner faster when it's hot or when it's cold? Like during the spring or closer to the summer? Because the first flush is kind of like the first spring pick in India and in Nepal. And does Sri Lanka have a first flush? I don't think so. I think they make tea all year. So first flush is in spring. It's colder, so the leaves don't get as dark when they oxidize. And they're trying to preserve some of those fresh kind of springtimey flavors. When tea makers are thinking about making tea, when they want to, preserve those high notes, they will tend to process it a little bit less. And then these guys, the much darker second flush dudes, these are what kind of get the whole like the champagne of tea kind of thing going on for Darjeeling, because these have what are called muscatel notes. Muscatel is a kind of grape, like muscat grapes. If some of you guys haven't had these grapes, I hear that Concord grapes are kind of similar. Muscat grapes are pretty popular in Asia, so I have tasted them before, just growing up. And see how much darker it is compared to the first flush? This is a darker oxidation. It's kind of towards the summer now, so it's hotter. So your fruit and your tea is going to go brown a lot faster and easier, and that's where you get that brown color. And the flavor is more fruity and less floral. But, that's just our little primer. We should just taste these, I think. And instead of doing a side-by-side today, I know, we're not going to do a side-by-side. We'll just brew the first flush first. And then we'll compare it to another first flush in, the same guy I want. I don't want to do like a side-by-side right now. I want to just experience the tea. That's just my afterglow from the Floating Leaves live, where I'm like, wow, they're so focused. And then the second flush afterwards. Okay? Any questions that you have, let me know right now while we put the kettle on. I'm curious, especially for our Darjeeling experts, what kind of temperature do you like to use for Darjeeling? I tend to like using boiling for most of my teas, but I'm open to your suggestions today, whether in Fahrenheit or Celsius. I'm going to put it at 85 Celsius for now to see what happens. Let me say my hellos to some of our friends too. Pam from Chaolis Tea. Delphine, how's it going? Bonjour. Let's see, who else did I miss? God Save the Tea blog. Oh, I'm so behind. Kiki Tea. Soyon96. Justin Lai Tea. Martin from Read 80. I hope that the connection is better today, my friend. K Vola Bear and Tea Stories. and Wanderer's tea. There we go. And then we got some suggestions for us: 95 degrees Celsius, 90 degrees Celsius. Okay, so I'll put this up a little bit further. I like that idea. I always like going a little bit hotter, because the hotter you can get, the more complex flavors you'll probably pull from the tea. I just like working like that. And then Marjolin asked me, is Shinsha matcha from 2020? No, don't worry, it's not from 2020. That's some bullshit. So if anyone's trying to sell you 2020 tea from Japan, it doesn't exist yet. So I don't think global warming's that advanced. You know, we are seeing some regions pick tea sooner than they usually would because of, you all get it, right? Global warming. It's not, I mean, it's climate change. It's not like the natural ebb and flow. The world's getting warmer, guys. And the 1% of me that was like doubting went to Taiwan, and they're like, oh yeah, we used to harvest in April, and now we just harvest in March now. That's just a fact of life. That's something I saw down in Taidong. It's not like that every single place in the tea world, but there are, like, they're farmers, they actually see it happening. And yeah, they're seeing their harvest come earlier because it's warmer. So the leaves come back to life, you know, the tea bushes come back to life earlier. But Japan does its spring around like April at the earliest. And then I think they wrap up spring harvest in June. So if anyone's trying to sell you first harvest Japanese tea right now, it's not from this year. Yeah. Can we confirm that, Marjolin? Is there something I'm missing? Don't tell me there's 2020 tea somehow from Japan already. Yeah. And then Marjolin also said, I've heard that traditionally Darjeelings were all oxidized more, even first flush. But it is a recent trend to push the flavor towards a greener flavor. Yes, I heard that too. That in the past, most Darjeeling actually went like this. Even the first flush. But to get to this, you would, in the spring, you would need a longer oxidation time anyway. So it's almost like it's helping them preserve the floral flavor. More like working with the seasons here, that they're trending towards the greener style. And the greener style is more floral. I think it's a little bit more what we call sexy. It's very perfumey, extremely aromatic, like even with the dry leaves just kind of hanging out, I can smell them. They're very lush. And Darjeeling is a high elevation area, and high elevation teas, especially when they're like small buds like this, tend to have a lot of aroma to them. Very bright, kind of lush aroma. So it's kind of unmistakable once you have drunk a couple Darjeelings what these guys are. But it's always good to have tea practice for those of us who have been Darjeeling fans for a while. And if you haven't had a Darjeeling yet, I highly recommend doing it. They're like on a league of their own, I think. So yeah, we'll do 93 degrees Celsius, 200 degrees Fahrenheit. How's that? Is that okay? Butar Bakes, welcome to the Darjeeling practice. Henrique and Vidhi Kundanjain. How's it going? Hi from Las Vegas. Yeah, okay. I'm excited. We are going to use a gaiwan today. I thought about using a glass teapot. Glass teapots are, you know, I don't really like glass all that much for tea, but I find that glass does okay with Darjeeling. So, you know, try it out. But today I want to use a gaiwan, and that's because it's been a while since I've worked with Darjeeling. I'd like to taste how they're doing. I'd like to just reacquaint myself with the style of tea that they are. It's just been a while, and during this quarantine, I just feel like we're gonna have a lot of time to practice tea, so I don't mind jumping a little bit between topics for myself and for you guys, just because I feel like, you know, I don't want to say it's a good thing. There's a lot of stuff happening out there. But for those of us who have the luxury, and it's a luxury to stay home, we can actually do some tea practice and learn and work on some stuff. And I'm almost doing like a review of everything I might want to study again, practice again. And that's where we're jumping from like bowl brewing to Darjeeling to Taiwan Oolong. That's spoiler alert, we'll do a Taiwan Oolong tomorrow. Just do whatever you want with your tea practice, whatever you're curious about. again, this was inspired by Delphine and Jeremy from TJ9 on the chat right now, who just so happened to teach us how to say, well, not how to say, just how they say it.
Do it.
No,
shame. Come on.
Darjeeling. I just keep butchering it. Now, Darjeeling. Darjeeling. I mean, I'm not even making fun of you guys. It sounds really fancy. We're American, right? Like, just all other accents sound fancy to us, besides Australian accents, which just sound like you're gonna throw something on the Barbie. Is Nick here? Slick Neville? I hope he's not. I think accents are awesome. I have an accent too because I learned to speak English in the Philippines. People ask me, what's your first language? I'm like, it's English, but it sounds weird because I grew up in the Philippines and, you know, learned the Filipino way there. We speak really good English in the Philippines, but we still have that kind of accent thing going on. Yeah. Okay. And yes, we are doing Darjeeling black tea. We will use 93-ish degrees for Darjeeling today. I just preheated my pot. Let's choose between these two. How do I choose between which tea to start with? I like to start with a tea that's going to be hopefully a little bit more basic because you want to ramp up just for enjoyment. You don't want to start with a good one first, you know? It's like a good date. You want to start with a less exciting thing first and then ramp up. Otherwise, the second thing might be cool, but then compared to the first thing, it's not going to be as interesting. So I'm seeing that this one is a little bit more buddy. It's got a lot of like small, tiny buds. It looks really even and well processed. How does it smell? It's a lot of aroma coming out from those buds, and you'll notice a lot of tippy or buddy teas. Buds and tips are the same thing. It's these guys, little fuzzies. They're the same thing that makes silver needle and also black tea, the golden buds. It's the same part of the plant. They're very fragrant. So this is very fragrant. I think I might want to do that second because it looks very sexy. Darjeeling fans, don't you think? It's a sexy looking Darjeeling right there. Like, looks very high grade. Not a lot of broken leaves either. So it looks really good. I want to do that second, if that's okay. This one does look nice too, but a little bit more like standard grade, not as many tips. So we'll start with this one. I don't try to judge the tea just by the appearance. I'm just making a guess here. It's possible that this is the better one. You never know. But I'm just checking. And then marjoram, I think the market is misunderstanding the use of shincha terminology. In Japan, as far as I understood, they only use shincha for the tea first harvest in the first 1 or 2 months after harvesting. So what marjoram is talking about there is shin is new. Right? Shin is new, cha is tea. New tea, shin cha. So it's really only new for like the first couple months. From what I understand, they actually changed the terminology of it to call it ichibancha, which is the first tea. The first tea harvest if it gets older. Because you can't call it new anymore. It's not new. So yeah, I think a lot of vendors are kind of hopping on the shincha train. I think it's not a bad thing, but it's good to understand why shincha is being used. And I personally like sencha that's been sitting around a little bit longer, you know. I've met some producers from Japan that say that matcha that's not rested is actually not going to have the umami you want in the matcha. So people who rush to get 2020 fresh matcha will not get as much umami, or they actually blend stuff from last year into this year's new matcha to give it some of the umami character. Otherwise, people will complain. You didn't hear it here. I don't know. I could be remembering it wrong, but that's what I remember they told me. Like, more than 1 or 2 producers. And I just keep seeing this trend of people resting their teas for umami purposes, and I taste it too. I can actually taste it. When we were in India, I had the opportunity to make tea in Darjeeling and in Nepal over the border. And yeah, I found that you might think like, oh my god, the tea's fresh. Like, it's gonna be the most friggin' like kick-ass cup of tea I've ever made in my life because it's just fresh off the press, right? And then you drink it and then it sucks. You're like, why does it not taste good? It's fresh. We have this idea that the fresher the better. And I don't know, it seems to take tea at least a couple of weeks to rest after it's first been made for it to taste good. I'm not sure if any of you who've made tea have experienced this. It could taste good at the very beginning, but it tastes better as time goes on in the first like couple weeks, month or so. So that's what I've seen. So I believe it, and it matches with what I've experienced. Like anything else, tea is not black and white. I'm certain that there's good tea that's just absolutely the best fresh off the press, but you know. Anyway, back to the Darjeeling. And lastly for Darjeeling, there will be 2020 teas made right now, like Kyobancha, dude, which is the last harvest before spring. Steven, I want some Kyobancha. I really like Kyobancha from Japan. It's one of my favorites. Okay, yes, we are doing this first flush Darjeeling right now. We were talking about Japanese teas for a little bit, but we are drinking first flush Darjeeling. This is, again, the first flush Darjeeling from Tea Evolution Manila. I got this all the way from the Philippines, which is where I was born, from my friend Cheryl, who sells amazing tea there. We're not a tea drinking country, so she's doing some really good work. She's the same lady who made my Filipino tea bowl. So, yeah. Teaware made by tea people, usually, you know, a good thing. Shiloh, if you're still here, don't get excited.
Shout out.
Okay. Wow, it's been such a long time since I've had a good Darjeeling. Holy crap. That's like, I like oolong, but something about a Darjeeling is just so poppy and fresh and vibrant. It feels like spring just arrived right now in this cup. Whew. Wow. Poppy. I have had this tea before, but I haven't had it this year yet. It's been a while, and it's just vibrant, alive, complex. Just so much going on, even right now on the palate. Whew. Wow, amazing. So, very classic first flush Darjeeling, gosh, Darjeeling flavors. That's not an accent, that's just me not working. You're looking for floral, you're looking for bright, fresh, crisp, just essence of spring stuff. So if you have a Darjeeling in your cabinet that you don't know if it's first flush or second flush, if it tastes like friggin' springtime in a cup, that's a first flush. Most of the time. You know, I also think that you can look at the leaves, but there are some lighter oxidized, meaning lighter colored, lighter browning second flushes. Tendencies are, if it is a little bit more green and light colored like this, it is going to be a first flush, but again, yes, but not always. This is really good. Holy crap. And it's experiences like this that make me stop in my tracks whenever people can be kind of, who was it who was talking about the world being a little bit Chinese-centric when it comes to tea on the Discord? We were talking about tea categories being Sinocentric or Chinese-centric. And a little bit of our standard in the tea community is a little bit Chinese-centric. Like we measure tea by the gold standard of China, Taiwan, maybe even Japan. And then a lot of the other teas kind of get forgotten because they're not objectively the best processed. I mean, if we look at the leaves, let's think about this here. Let me lift my elevation a bit on my chair. There we go. Now we're on the second floor. Let's take a look at the leaves. They're not as even as a Chinese tea might be. We've got kind of like some green bits, we've got some brown bits. They're cut up, so you're not seeing like full leaves. And in China, that's not like standard, right? That's, you want the leaves to be whole. But while objectively this isn't the most perfectly processed tea, it's still really good and it accomplishes something that Chinese teas just don't. Like, sorry, I really like China and Taiwan, A lot of my tea influence is from Taiwan because my tea family is there. I mean, I have influences all over the place, but it's important not to forget Darjeeling can do stuff China can't. Sorry, China, like, you can do stuff they can't, and they can do stuff you can't because of terroir, right? The terroir is that, oh god, it's another French word!
Terroir.
Terroir. Terroir. Terroir. Terroir. It's, I see it like pronounced terroir, and I literally went to Google Translate to hear the French translation, like French pronunciation of it, while writing a terroir article, so I can say it right. Tony Gabely, who's the author of The Philosophy of Tea, which just came out, and Tea A User's Guide, he's the guy behind World of Tea. Dope ass freaking dude. One of his biggest like tea pushes isn't anything fancy. It's like, can we not say terroir anymore? Because we sound like douchey. Can we just say terror? But I could imagine that would offend a lot of people who speak French and are like, for good reason. It's like, hey, it's a French word, just use it. It's not like anyone has a petition to say, you know, longjing should be longjing or longjing, right? We try to do our best to pronounce Chinese words. I'll do my best to pronounce terroir. Terroir. Discord friends, we have a hangout after this. You can teach me, okay? So what we're talking about is the terroir of the tea. It's the environment, the altitude, the place, even the people who made this tea. So let me give you an idea of Darjeeling. It's really cold, it's really high up, it's hard to get there. To get there, you have to transfer like 3 airports to get to the city near Darjeeling, which is Siliguri. And I think Bagdogra Airport is the airport closest to there. And it's from there just a lot of driving and kind of not looking down the side of the car because you're just kind of like steep cliffs right beside you. And, you know, it's not as remote as people think it is sometimes. I mean, in some ways it is, but a lot of the tea marketing we have in the West is very kind of like exotified and like far, far away lands. It's just India, you know, people live there and stuff, but yeah, it's beautiful and misty. There's these huge, huge tea estates. The air is very, very fresh there. And actually, from what I understand, the Darjeeling tea plants are Chinese. They're Chinese bushes, meaning they're small bush. Let's just call it small bush. That's not, I don't want to get PC right here. They're small leaf bushes. A lot of them are blends between small leaf, which is what you see a lot in China and Japan, and the bigger leaf. If you've seen the pictures of Assam tea leaves, they're like chonkers, you know, they're like really big. And Assam has that malty like chonker taste from the chonker leaves. Same thing with Yunnan, has big leaves too. In Darjeeling, they have small leaves. So while it's Indian, they have a different leaf kind of like thing going on than the rest of India. And I think that's part of why the taste is so different. Yeah. Oh, the terror. I was so full of terror driving around Darjeeling. I couldn't focus on the terroir. I was just too full of terror. So yes, Delphine says it's Camellia sinensis, which is a tiny one. For those of you who haven't studied plant botany like the rest of us, we haven't studied plant botany, but in tea, we talk a lot about small leaf and large leaf Camellia sinensis. So Camellia sinensis is the tea plant, sinensis is a tiny guy, and then Assamica is a big guy. So chonker, this is chonker leaves. Assamica is big, and sinensis is small. So Camellia sinensis, and then Camellia sinensis Assamica is big. And then there's a debate about if pu'er trees in Yunnan are Assamica or sinensis. People say it's maybe both or something else entirely. And then last fact before we focus again on Darjeeling, there's Camellia sinensis formosinensis or formosensis, which is the Taiwan variety of the tea plant, which is actually less genetically related to sinensis and Assamica. It kind of like just developed on its own. And Matt from Mountain Stream Teas is kind of working with those. I think they're for the formosinensis. So kind of interesting and evolving kind of tea industry there as they're starting to use their own plants. That formosinensis, I think, is one of the ancestors of Ruby 18. Don't quote me, I'm not a plant, I like to drink the plants. I don't study the heritage of the plants, but that's what I've seen and heard and observed. So interesting stuff. Viri Kundan Jain, I saw that you're from India. Welcome, welcome, and thanks for joining us for this Indian tea tasting. And additionally, a lesser known fact, India also grows and produces amazing coffee in the south of India. Okay. I like to hear that because it seems like, ooh, it's my dog. That's not my stomach. Should we let her in? She's gonna be nuts. How did she get up here? Yeah, you can grow coffee and tea at the same time in certain areas. There's Alishan coffee. Some of you who have Mountain Stream Teas as a subscription receive some of those. Alishan coffee is the best coffee I've ever had in the world. Steven, let me say hi to her before she goes. Say hi to my dog. She always gets upset when we're up here. Hey Bella. Bella. Say hi. Speak. Speak. No. No. Bella.
Sit. Speak.
Bella, speak.
She's got a scratch.
She's got a scratch. It's okay. She's American. I don't know where that's going. She's easily distracted and...
Speak.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay. A lot of tangents, I'm sorry, but... Okay. Wanderous T says, British stole Chinese tea bushes and planted them in Darjeeling. That's what I've heard too. I've also heard that there might be some small leaf bushes that were existing around Darjeeling, like closer to like the border. It seems like the range of tea plants is bigger than we think. Yeah, TJ the American dog joke. She's just easily distracted and excited by shiny things. I'm just conflating it because I'm American. I know that they're very nice and peaceful Americans, like Steven's very non-excitable and non-distractible, and I'm just talking out of my mouth. Yeah, Marjorie in India is producing some amazing cocoa too. Yeah, a lot of stuff comes out from India. It's pretty interesting. I've tried neem there. The turmeric from there is just next level. The ghee from India is just insane. So I don't know what they do to the cows there, but cows are sacred in India and they walk around the streets and stuff. So, and every family kind of has a cow. In the province, I'm not going to conflate it. It's a generalization, but a lot of families own cows and they make their own ghee. And dude, the ghee there is just, it's not even close to the level of the ghee I've had here. American food, I don't know. I went to India, especially in France, Italy, and the UK, and then Taiwan. Everywhere else but the US, I feel like has food that actually tastes like the ingredient the food's supposed to be made out of. So when I went to France and had bread there, I was like, holy crap, the bread tastes like wheat. And I know bread's made from wheat, but our bread here in the United States tastes more like enriched flour. So yeah, that's terroir, I guess, or just agricultural techniques and stuff. Anyway, second steep of this first flush Darjeeling. Again, it's a clonal Serena Wonder, and clonal means that it's been cloned from a certain mother bush. So instead of grown from seed, it's been cut and then planted and then kind of like propagated out. So you're gonna get more consistency in the flavor, consistency in the plant, and in the processing too. TJ9 says Steven's a proper Canadian.
That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me. Oh, I'm sorry.
What are you guys drinking today? We're having too much fun with this Darjeeling. See, it's a peppy tea. We just came off of Floating Leaves' tea session, and so we're even more focused on the tea energy than we are as usual. And we were always thinking about it, but this tea is peppy. It makes me talkative. It makes me happy. It's very vibrant. It's not a tea that I want to drink late at night when I want to think about something very seriously. I think it's a really good match for something like this where we're talking and having to sum up some energy to express things. Yeah, it's just a peppy tea. So really good morning tea, I think, if you're about to ramp up for the day. Really good afternoon tea. Really good socializing tea. Really good pretending you're an extrovert when you're an introvert kind of tea. Don't ask me about that. I don't know anything about that. Yeah, really, really tasty. And so the second steep, I left a little bit longer than I wanted to. Usually I reduce the time on the second steep for first flush so it doesn't oversteep. But it's perfect. Actually, it's perfect. It's actually developed a kind of buttery texture to it. It's very full. A problem I have with a lot of Indian teas that it kind of lacks texture in many ways. Maybe it's just bold, but it might lack some aftertaste. It's bold, but it might lack some roundness and balance. But this is extremely balanced, very good. Really, really good. Very, very aromatic. I'm getting ahead of myself because this tea is just like electricity. It's making me hyped up. It's making me talkative. It's making me really kind of... I'm vibing, I guess. What else is everyone drinking? Vidi Kundanjain says, also, does too much tea make anyone a little bit heady or tipsy? Yes, that's tea energy or tea drunk. Usually in China, if it's not a good feeling, they use cha zui, which is tea drunk. Just from what I've seen, it's seen as like a negative thing that you get tea drunk. But if it's a good thing, they just say, oh, the tea's doing well for you. Yeah, Eric's drinking from some Fujuan. He's tea sleuth. Me.mar, you made me dig out the loss of my autumn Darjeeling, which has mainly been used to brew kombucha. Wow, that must be super floral. Oh my goodness, that's crazy. I really like autumn Darjeeling. I don't have one right now. Shows you how much I like it. I actually drink it. And then Shiloh, I'm drinking a 50-year-old Taiwanese oolong from Mountain Stream. Okay. It's like caramelized snickerdoodles combined with the scent of spring rain and petrichor. That's all the stuff I like. Caramel, snickerdoodles, spring rain, rain. Rain's good. I like rain. And then this is strip oolong. Okay. For me, let's try to pull a Shiloh or Nuev Orden level tasting note from here. It feels like being in a spring garden. It's like stem vegetables, a little bit of rose. That's where I draw it. I used to do a lot of tasting notes, but I kind of stopped now that I realized that the tea will change based on the material and the water. But it is extremely floral. That stem vegetable, like when you cut broccoli and then eat that part of the stem, it's not as like leafy, it's more crisp and bright. It's got some texture, some heft to it. It's very tasty. Delphine had a charcoal dongding, which we had this morning.
From
actually. Where? And let's see, Vidi Kundanjain says, often light aromatic teas are not understood by most people in India because there's a heavier, strong culture of chai. And chai doesn't need them much flavor and aromas. They're often added later. That's true too. The culture I've seen in Darjeeling, they do like their light body teas, but they will still serve chai, even if they have Darjeeling. And Darjeeling, even in India, is seen as like a higher class tea, just from what I saw there. I'm not sure if that's your experience, Vidi Kundanjain, but it seems like Darjeeling was a higher price and reserved for like special occasions. Not that, of course, people drink it every day if they really like tea, but it's not seen as an everyday tea like chai is. Like chai is the backbone of tea culture and tea in India that I saw. Like if you came to someone's house, they wouldn't give you Darjeeling, they would give you chai. And yes, it's more bold and sweet, and everyone has a different chai recipe depending on where they live and their family recipe and stuff. It's pretty interesting. I'm gonna close the door so the dog doesn't come barreling in again. Okay, let's see how much time we have left. I want to make sure to get to the other teas. Oh my Jesus, it's already 3:45. Let's put this to the side. That means, Discord friends, we will drink the better first flush later. The teas. I've gotten enough of an idea of how this first flush is like. So again, if you have not been familiarized with first flush yet, this light green color, both in the dry leaf and the wet leaf, you know, it's more green. That's a sign of first flush. Those really lush, floral, fragrant, fresh, springtimey things going on. That's probably a first flush. And then it's got a kind of like crispness to it, like thinner. Like if you guys drink champagne or white wine, it kind of reads like that crisp, thin, refreshing thing going on. So I actually really like first flush in the summer over a second flush because it's very refreshing. A little bit lighter than our second flush. So I'm not sure who said it earlier, but someone said we're going from lighter to darker. That's indeed what we're doing here. Whether by design or by coincidence, we are going to go from our lighter first flush to our darker second flush. And then I will pick the tea that, to me, matches more of the grade of this one. Not the absolute best, but really friggin' delicious for what it was. And this is why you need to trust your vendor when they're curating Darjeeling tea. Darjeeling tends to be a little bit unpredictable. They don't have as much consistency, I think, as the Chinese, Japanese, Taiwanese producers. It's just a different tea making style there. And the leaves are cut up, so sometimes you'll get some really bitter and kind of off-tasting teas, but they will make many different batches. So your vendors are tasting tons and tons and tons of different Darjeelings to get the one batch that they want from that estate, especially in like a Camellia sinensis, you know, or someone who specializes in Darjeeling tea. So Darjeeling is one of those things that even if I could like ask an estate to go send me some tea or something and buy directly from them, I don't want to deal with it. I'd rather trust the vendor because they've done the groundwork as to what tastes good that year. All vendors of any tea will do that anyway, but especially with Darjeeling, it can be very variable. Okay, so we're going from spring, first flush, bright, crisp, floral, to our darker second flush tea. So darker in color with the leaves. You got some red leaf going on there. The tips are not as prominent, meaning there are not as many tips. Prominent's too long of a word. It's too prominent in the sentence. Okay, let's do this second flush Darjeeling. TJ, Delphine, any other of my French-speaking friends, if you teach me how to say second flush Darjeeling, I will practice it with you. Do you guys actually say second flush Darjeeling? Even in Quebec? Not Quebec, Quebec. Language is so interesting. Even in Quebec, do you say second flush or do you actually change it to the French style of saying it? When I was in India, even if they could speak, I guess is it Hindi? A lot of people in Darjeeling also speak Nepali. A lot of them are Nepalese too, from just across the border. They have a Nepalese like heritage or their families from there or whatever. So lots of languages being spoken there, but they still say first flush. At least when I was around. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Other people drinking some delicious things too. Esther's drinking some Pinglin Baozong. I like Baozong a lot. Keep talking about floating leaves, but they are my favorite for Baozong. I didn't like Baozong until I tried Showen and know it was Baozong. Especially the Farmer's Choice. And then I also really like Matt from Mountain Streams' Baozongs. Those are very tasty too. And yeah, sounds like everyone is indeed enjoying some really delicious teas. Some vibe in here. It's good stuff. Chachi is good. I don't think Chachi is limited to only like really expensive Chinese teas. This feels great, Steven. And not to take away from the skill of my friend Cheryl, who runs this company in Manila. Anyone from Manila, there's no other place you gotta go for tea. She's Teavolution PH. She's on Instagram. I highly recommend you follow her, even if you're not in the Philippines. It's good to see what's going on in other countries, and she's also a ceramicist. Like I said, she made this bowl and is trying to make ceramics happen for tea in the Philippines, which is unprecedented for us. We're not a tea drinking country, we're a coffee country. Even being in Asia, we have a lot of Hispanic influence, so we drink coffee. But she picks really good tea because she's very mindful about what she's drinking. She does test the cha-chi of the tea, the energy, how it makes her feel, and she tends to buy tea only from like clean farms, meaning farms that don't use a buttload of extra fertilizers or additives. And just from what I've seen, it tends to make a difference in the quality of the tea and the feeling. Some Darjeeling can make me feel a little bit jittery, but this one's very good. I might say stable, but maybe stable is not the right word. I feel very peppy, but it's a very comfortable kind of peppy. Sometimes a tea can make me jittery. A lot of Indian teas can be a little bit unpredictable also in the feeling from what I've seen, but this one's just dope. I'm very happy about that tea. Last bit of it here. Delicious even when cooled down. Really good. So we're gonna switch gears to our second flush, which is Big Heart Tea's Everyday Darjeeling. They're actually from here in the United States. So they actually, I think they have this in stock, and they have a sale right now. I think. We'll see. And this is from Yankee Tea Estate in Darjeeling. It's a smaller tea estate, kind of a collaborative of smaller farmers. So yeah. Wow.
20% off bulk tea.
20% off bulk tea. Steven likes to shop while I'm doing the lives. I can't stop him. So this here is very different from the first flush. Look at the color of the first flush versus the second flush. Remember our first flush was light colored, greenish, pale. This one's almost like red. It's quite red even for a second flush Darjeeling. So I imagine it's going to be pretty punchy. So we'll give it a test. It's not as red and thick as Assam tea, but it's getting there. I mean, look at it. Jeez. It smells very fruity and very malty. So I can tell it's Darjeeling because it's not just malty. It's got some fruitiness going on too. So it still reads as a Darjeeling. Let's see if that classic muscatel note will come out. Steven, cheers. Stop shopping. Shopping. Whew, very different. So the first one is like tingly and white winey. This is almost like going to red wine quality here. It's Steven's making faces.
It's like bourbon.
Bourbon? You've never even had bourbon. What are you talking about? This is what you imagine bourbon would be like. Yes, it's very rich, it's dark, it's very present, and bassy. So while the other one, I mean, they're both Darjeelings. This is a crazy thing, you know? It's Darjeeling, but the light flavor of the first flush is so different from this darker flush here. So the second flush, and that darker oxidation, like think about it, if your first time having Darjeeling was the one you didn't like, right? What if you just thought you didn't like Darjeeling because you so happened to try the version that's just not your taste? Some people are into floral flavors, some people are into darker flavors. It's good to be aware that there's a difference here, both for yourself and if you're trying to get people into the tea you like, you know, you could ask them, do you want a floral tea? Do you want a more bold tea? And I find that someone who likes the second flush might think the first flush is kind of quote-unquote boring or too flowery, too fragrant. Some people just don't like those kinds of teas and they prefer this kind of bold, strong, but not bitter. I don't think it's bitter at all. I lied. It is bitter, but it's not bitter in an unpleasant way. It's bitter in the way that red grapes is. It's got that tannin going on, you know? Yeah, it's just a tiny bit of bitterness. I could have steeped a little bit shorter too, but even without babying it too much, it's balanced, it tastes good, it's got some fruity character to it. This particular Darjeeling does not have a strong muscatel taste. So muscatel is used for second flush Darjeeling because sometimes it shows up in that flush or season. This one does not have a strong muscatel taste. And that's something that is important to note, is that even if second flush Darjeeling is known for having a muscatel taste, not every single batch is going to be muscatel. And I believe Big Heart Tea picked this not because of the muscatel taste, but because of the sourcing of the tea. You know, it's from a smaller producer who's trying to do a co-op and stuff like that. And then the decision is to pick a tea that's solid, really good, but just because it's muscatel doesn't mean you just drop off the dudes on the side of the street, you know, like, screw you guys, there's no grape taste in this, it's not a good tea. It's certainly a second flush, it's certainly fruity, but no muscatel. I think it's okay. Like, that it doesn't have muscatel. It's still tasty. I still like it a lot. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like it when the second flush has that signature grapey muscatel taste, but this is still really good. It's almost like an Assam that you lifted up with some fruity and sweet notes. So if you're feeling Assam, like bold black tea, but you don't want to go all the way down, like really, really like bossy, you could just kind of go in the middle. And this is kind of what it's like a light dark tea. Like a medium to light dark tea.
It's pretty warming. It's
pretty warming, yeah. So the other one, I can feel myself kind of calm down a little bit. Not as da-da-da-da-da-da, it's like da-da-da-da-da-da, right? I'm slowing down. It's a little bit more calm and warm, for sure. Yeah. I got excited about this tea. I haven't said hello to our friends coming in. Delphine says in Quebec they say it the same way, just second flush. They don't change it to the French. Let's see, and then we say first and second flush. Okay, there we go. So we've had Ellie Amelie join us from Japan, right? And then Christine from down the road. How's it going, Vegas Tea fam? Calf's Mag. Gabby also from down the road. I mean, you know I love you guys from Vegas. Yeah, I hope you guys are doing well. Joe from Fish Anywhere, and then HP2 IoT, and Lily Duflove. How's it going? Hello from Las Vegas. We're wrapping up our Darjeeling kind of like testing session with a second flush Darjeeling. A lot darker, a lot, I'd say richer in flavor. If you're someone who doesn't like perfumey tea, this is probably a better bet. Maybe Assam would be an even better, more solid bet because there is still some aromatic lushness going on. Darjeeling, if anyone's even trying, even if they don't try, okay? Even the worst Darjeeling batches I've ever tasted when I was there were still explosively aromatic. You can't take it away from the tea, I feel like. Like, it's almost got to be disastrous if you want to take away the aroma of Darjeeling. It's just built into the tea plants. They're just super aromatic. Good. Really, really good. And not as peppy and bright as the first flush, but definitely more soothing, more kind of soft, and maybe a little bit more quote-unquote weird to use sexy for the first one. It's more romantic. It's got that kind of classic black tea, rose, strolling through the park, nighttime tea. This is like late night with someone you like, right, Steven? Late night stroll through the park with the sun out, with the stars out. I don't know what world I'm living in. Where the sun is out. I hope we don't wake up in the morning and the news says, sun's out, it's nighttime, now the world's really gonna end. More romantic, I think, the second flush teas are. I'm not sure if you guys feel the same way about these teas. And the reason why I try to attach these pictures or maybe scenes to these teas is that I can talk about the elevation and the oxidation level and the brewing style all day, but it's harder to talk about tea that way in a way that people understand, unless we're like in front of each other practicing together with the same teaware. Even me who loves infusions and temperatures and materials, I kind of glaze over the way people prepare tea. I want to see what the experience is. What's in the tea? What personality does it have? And the notes can be different between one person or another. Vidi Kundanjain says, I wish we could be all sitting in the one room around the table, sharing our teas and doing this. That would be better, right? But even between two people making tea, the way they pour the kettle or the tea they're using is going to change the flavor notes. So I don't feel connected when we talk flavor notes unless it's something unmistakable, like raisins. Like, I don't care what you're doing. Your aged white tea tastes like friggin' raisins. Screw it, you know? But I think we can agree that first flush Darjeeling is like spring, and then second flush Darjeeling has that kind of deep, like super smooth, quote-unquote romantic, fruity, malty thing going on that's a little bit easier to express. And yeah, it's definitely a different mood, I think, than the first flush. And for a tea that's so cut up, it's quite cut up. We were talking about Chinese tea standards. It's not what the Chinese would call high-grade tea, right? The leaves are not whole, you're getting pieces and stuff, and when you brew Darjeeling, you gotta, I think, baby it a little bit more than your Chinese teas. Because of the cut up leaf size, it's gonna infuse faster in the gaiwan or teapot. But it's good. It's really good. I'm not detecting any off notes with it. And so even if it's not necessarily the most objectively well processed, it's good. I really, really like this. Good stuff. And like good memories of being on this estate, you know? This estate has like pineapple in the backyard, and the head is like this, you know, really, really badass lady. And Big Heart Tea is run by a badass lady, my friend Lisa Gobro, and that's why they vibe, you know? And a little bit different. It's not from a famous estate. A lot of these estates that you hear, like Castleton, I have one on the table, Glenburn. I've never heard of Suren, which is the clonal tea we had earlier, but estates we've heard of. So the Yankee tea estate's a little bit different, a little bit less, kind of off the beaten path. So in Darjeeling, they're historical tea estates. They're, you know, known by everyone. When you hear the name, people know Glenburn, people know Castleton, people know Margaret's Hope. But then there are these little guys too who are making interesting teas. And yeah, again, that's why I don't mind that there's no muscatel flavor here. It's different, you know? Good stuff. And Delphine's trying to call me out. Raisins no, grapes yes. I mean, that's why people don't like tea of different kinds. It's still the same plant, but some people can't stand pu'er and will drink oolong all day or vice versa. So, I don't know. You can't call me out on that. But yes, I much rather have the grape taste than the raisin taste. It's a big difference. Sorry. Let's do another sweep of this, just to wrap up. Steven, how many minutes we got?
It's 4:03.
Is it 4:03? We got 2 minutes. So let's flash steep this. Just see what happens. The first steep of it was pretty dark. You know, I'm going to stack it, try to get a lighter steep, and see what we get. And yes, I brew my Darjeelings in the gaiwan without a filter. I don't like having a metal filter in the way, just in case the metal filter will put some flavor in the tea that I don't want. So I'm no metal filter. If I have a leaf, I have a leaf. But I don't. So lovely. Ooh, that's a better color, I think. I think I left the other one on too long, but it still was really good. This is a little bit more typical of a second flush color, I think. More friendly, but still a lot deeper and more romantic than the other one. More of the fruit flavor comes out. If there is a fruit, I think, that comes up here, Steven, you wanna... What kind of fruit is this?
You're asking me?
it's like plum, I would say.
Yeah.
Like it's got that red skin thing going on, but it's not grape. But still really, really lovely. Good stuff. I'm happy. This was a good session. We're running out of time here on the Instagram Live, so I gotta sign off. But thank you so much for joining us. This is really fun as always. Hope you guys are okay wherever you are. If you have any questions, let me know. See you on the Discord and on Instagram. Thank you!